I was looking for a job to save money for a trip when I stumbled upon a job at an inn. After applying, strange things began to happen around me. I decided to decline the job and called the inn, but the phone line was dead. And when I listened to the recording of our conversation, I heard a ghostly voice whispering. This is about 2 years ago when I was looking for a part-time job because I wanted to go on a trip. It was a hot day, and I was flipping through job listings while sweating and making phone calls. However, for some reason, every place I called turned me down. I was lying down on the worn-out tatami mat and cursing while casually flipping through a bunch of job magazines. It's tough times. We're trying to save energy, so we turn off the lights until nighttime. On the tatami mat, the setting sun was being blocked by the window frame, casting a shadow like a cross. In the distance, you could hear the sound of a train. When I closed my eyes, I could smell dinner coming from another room. I have some cup ramen, I thought. I sluggishly got up and cleaned up the messy job magazines. Then, by chance, the page that was open flipped over. There was an advertisement for a ryokan, traditional Japanese inn, in a certain prefecture. I'll keep it a secret, that was looking for part-time help. The location was exactly where I had been wanting to travel to. Although the hourly wage was not high, to say the least, and only for the summer season, I was strongly drawn to the fact that it included lodging and meals. I had been eating only cup noodles for a long time. Even if it was staff meal, I could eat homemade food, and it was also the place I wanted to visit. I called them immediately.
Hello? Thank you for calling the XX Inn.
Excuse me. I saw your job advertisement. Are you still hiring?
Hold on a moment. Sounds like it. Yeah.
The person who answered the call sounded like a young woman. She was having a quiet conversation with a low-voiced man. Is the man's voice the owner of the inn?
Hello, the call has been transferred. So, you're interested in the job, right?
Yes, I saw the job posting and would like to apply here.
Thank you. When can you start?
Anytime is fine with me.
Great, we'd like you to start from tomorrow. Sorry, what's your name?
It's Cameo.
Cameo, please come soon.
Everything went smoothly. I was lucky. I always recorded phone calls to make sure I didn't forget important details. I played the recording again and noted down necessary information. Since I was going to live there, they also required me to bring my insurance card, so I wrote that down too. The inn's job posting had black and white pictures of the inn. It was small, but it looked like a lovely place surrounded by nature. I was relieved that I had gotten the job, and it was even a place I wanted to go. But something was off. I made cup noodles while humming a tune, but it didn't feel right. The sun had set completely, and the humid warm breeze was coming in from the open window. While slurping the noodles, I realized what was wrong. The conditions were good, and I could make money while traveling. There were also girls there. If it were an inn, there might be opportunities to meet people. But something was off. My face was reflected in the dark window, and it looked lifeless and old. For some reason, I felt deeply depressed. I kept staring at my face, which seemed to have lost all vitality. The next day, I woke up with a terrible headache and sobbed uncontrollably. Was it a cold? I brushed my teeth while feeling dizzy. Blood was dripping from my gums. I looked in the mirror and was shocked. There were dark circles under my eyes as if they had been drawn with ink, and my face was deathly pale. It was as if I thought about quitting the job, but I had already prepared everything the night before. However, I couldn't bring myself to be excited. That's when the phone rang.
Good morning. This is from the 20th Inn. Is this Mr. Cameo?
Yes, that's me. I'm sorry, I just woke up.
Okay. But are you feeling unwell? Your voice is hoarse.
Oh, sorry about that. I just woke up.
No problem. When you arrive, feel free to take advantage of our hot springs or other amenities. Please take it easy on your first day. We're not too busy, so there's no rush.
Okay, no problem. But thank you. After hanging up, I left the house. The phone call had been so kind and helpful. I was grateful. However, after the call, I began to feel a chill. When I opened the door, I felt dizzy. Well, if I can just make it to the inn. I stumbled to the train station, so dizzy that people turned to look at me. Eventually, it started raining. I didn't bring an umbrella, so I had to walk to the station in the rain, getting soaked. I began coughing violently. I just want to rest at the inn. I finally made it to the station, completely soaked. I bought a ticket and looked at my hands in shock. They were dry and cracked, as if an old person's. Is this a serious illness? I just need to make it to the inn. I clung to the handrail and climbed the stairs, resting frequently. I had some time before the train arrived, so I collapsed onto a bench and struggled to breathe. Wheeze, wheeze. My voice was hoarse. My limbs were numb. Waves of headache hit me. Cough, cough. Blood splattered at my feet. I wiped my mouth with a handkerchief. The blood was thick. With blurry eyes, I looked at the platform. Hurry. To the inn. Soon the train roared into the platform with a loud noise and the doors opened. Watching the people getting on and off, I finally got up. My lower back was in terrible pain. I staggered towards the exit. My whole body was aching. If only I could get on that train. And as I reached for the exit door, an old lady with a demonic face rushed out from inside that train. Bam! She pushed me and I tumbled onto the platform. The old lady stumbled as well, but she attacked me again. We started wrestling with each other. Unfortunately, even though my opponent was an old lady, I had no strength in my hands. Stop it. Please stop. I have to get on that train.
Why?
The old lady straddled me and grabbed my face, pinning me to the ground while she asked. I have to get to the inn. Eventually, the station staff arrived and pulled us apart. The train had already left. I couldn't even stand up, so I sat in the center of the crowd. The old lady, who was pulled away, said,
You're being dragged by bad things. It was dangerous.
Then she left. After a few words with the station staff, I left the station and reluctantly went home. Then I started feeling better. My voice came back and when I looked in the mirror, I had a healthy complexion. I arrived home feeling puzzled and lit a cigarette to calm down. And I thought about calling the inn to refuse the job.
This phone number is currently not in use.
The voice on the other end droned. I redialed.
This phone number is currently not in use.
It repeated. I was confused. This was the exact number that had called me earlier this morning. Something was off. I remembered I had recorded the call. I rewound it to the beginning. Click.
Hello? Thank you for calling the 20th Inn.
A scratchy voice answered. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. That voice was not human. It was as if something inhuman was trying to mimic a human voice. Excuse me. I saw your job advertisement. Are you still hiring?
Hey, please hold on. It seems, yes, we are.
Huh? What was that sound in the background? I rewound and turned up the volume.
Hey, please hold on. It seems, yes, we are.
Rewind.
Hey, please hold on. It seems, yes, we are.
A child's voice chimed in. I could hear a chorus of moans in the background. My body was drenched in sweat. I backed away from the phone, and the recording continued to play.
Ah, thank you. When can you start?
Anytime is fine with me. That was the conversation I remembered having with an old man. But the voice that followed was that of an elderly man, as if he were speaking from beneath the ground.
Cameo, please come soon.
The call abruptly ended. I was paralyzed with fear, but I managed to calm down eventually. And then, the call recording continued to play. It was the call that came in earlier this morning. But the only voice on the recording was mine.
Die, 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 die.
Yes. I'm getting ready to leave now. I'm sorry, I just woke up, I said.
Die, 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 die.
Came the chilling response. Okay, no problem. But thank you. I turn off the power of the smartphone. My throat felt dry and scratchy as I let out a shuddering breath. What was happening? What was going on? I remembered the job guide I had been holding in my hand. Trembling, I flipped through the pages until I found the listing for the hotel. Something was off. My hand shook as I touched the page. It should have been clean and crisp, but this one was wrinkled and stained with a large, burnt spot on the edge. It looked like an old magazine from decades ago. The photo showed a burnt-down inn. The article described a fire that had killed over 30 people. The innkeeper was found dead in the kitchen, believed to have started the fire while cooking. The guests, trapped and unable to escape, had burned to death. This wasn't a job listing at all. I was frozen, unable to move or speak, as the job guide fluttered in the wind. And then, suddenly, the rain began to ease up. The brief silence that followed enveloped me completely.
The phone rang.